passenger plane carrying 239 people disappears without sending a single distress call. More than a decade later, the world is still asking the same question. Where did MH370 go? In the early hours of March 8, 2014, Kuala Lumpur International Airport was alive with its usual rhythm. Travelers hurried through terminals, flight crews prepared for long journeys, and Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 stood ready for what should have been another routine overnight trip to Beijing. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members, representing more than a dozen nationalities. Families were returning home. Business travelers expected to land by morning. For everyone on that aircraft, it was supposed to be an ordinary flight. At 12:41 a.m. local time, the Boeing 777 lifted into the night sky. Weather conditions were calm. The aircraft showed no signs of technical trouble during departure. Inside the cockpit, Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah and First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid guided the plane along its planned route across the South China Sea. For nearly 40 minutes, everything appeared normal. The final routine radio transmission came from the cockpit as air traffic control prepared to hand the flight from Malaysian controllers to Vietnamese controllers. Good night, Malaysian 370. Nothing about those words hinted that they would become some of the most analyzed words in aviation history. Moments later, the aircraft vanished from civilian radar. Controllers expected the next check-in. It never came. At first, no one imagined disaster. Communication delays happen. Radio frequencies change. Sometimes aircraft simply take a little longer to respond. Minutes turned into longer minutes. Then concern began to grow. As Vietnamese controllers repeatedly tried to contact MH370, silence answered every call. Meanwhile, military radar data would later indicate something even stranger. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, the aircraft appeared to make a dramatic turn back across the Malaysian peninsula before flying northwest over the Strait of Malacca. Why? No emergency call had been made. No confirmed distress message was transmitted. No evidence suggested the crew had reported smoke, fire, or mechanical failure. The disappearance quickly transformed from a missing aircraft into one of aviation's greatest mysteries. As dawn arrived, search aircraft and ships began scanning the waters where officials initially believed the airplane had gone down. But hour after hour, they found nothing. No floating luggage, no fuel slick, no life rafts, not even a small piece of debris. It was as if a massive Boeing 777 had simply disappeared into the night. Families gathered at airports in Kuala Lumpur and Beijing, waiting for news that never came. Television screens filled with breaking reports. Around the world, millions watched the story unfold in real time, hoping the aircraft would somehow be found intact. Then investigators uncovered a clue that changed everything. Although the aircraft had disappeared from civilian radar, data exchanged automatically between the aircraft and an Inmarsat satellite continued for several hours after contact was lost. The messages revealed something extraordinary. MH370 had not disappeared immediately after leaving radar coverage. The aircraft continued flying for nearly 7 more hours. That single discovery changed the entire investigation. Instead of searching only the South China Sea, experts began reconstructing the aircraft's possible path using satellite handshakes and timing calculations. The analysis pointed toward 2 possible corridors. One stretched north across Asia. The other reached deep into the remote southern Indian Ocean. As investigators compared military radar information with satellite data, the northern route became increasingly unlikely. Attention shifted toward one of the most isolated stretches of ocean on Earth. If the aircraft had traveled south, it would have crossed thousands of kilometers of open water, far beyond normal air traffic routes. It was a place where rescue would be almost impossible. And if MH370 had ended its journey there, finding it would become one of the greatest search challenges ever attempted. The search that followed was unlike anything the aviation world had ever seen. Ships, aircraft, satellites, and specialists from multiple countries joined the effort. Day after day, crews scanned vast stretches of ocean, battling rough seas, powerful currents, and weather that could change within hours. The search area kept expanding, yet every mission seemed to end the same way. Nothing. Every empty mile deepened the mystery. Investigators now faced an unsettling possibility. If the satellite analysis was correct, H370 had flown for hours after disappearing from civilian radar before eventually exhausting its fuel somewhere over the southern Indian Ocean. It was one of the most remote places on the planet, where ocean depths reached several thousand meters and underwater mountains made every search incredibly difficult. Finding a Boeing 777 under those conditions was like searching for a single object in a dark wilderness larger than many countries. As hope slowly faded, investigators focused on one question after another. What caused the aircraft to change course? Why was no distress call transmitted? Who or what was controlling the airplane during its final hours? The official investigation examined many possibilities, including mechanical failure, deliberate human action, fire, decompression, and other scenarios. Yet none could be confirmed with the available evidence. Without the aircraft's flight recorders, investigators could not determine exactly what happened inside the cockpit during those final hours. For the families of the 239 people on board, every unanswered question became another painful reminder that their loved ones had never come home. Months passed, then years. The search continued beneath the ocean's surface, using sophisticated sonar equipment and autonomous underwater vehicles. Teams carefully mapped sections of the seabed that had never been explored before. Piece by piece, they eliminated possible locations. Still, the aircraft remained hidden. Then, in 2015, the first major breakthrough finally arrived. A section of an aircraft wing, known as a flaperon, washed ashore on Reunion Island in the western Indian Ocean. Aviation experts later confirmed it came from Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. It was the first physical evidence proving that the aircraft had ended its journey in the Indian Ocean. More debris would later be discovered along the coastlines of Africa and nearby islands. Some pieces were confirmed to belong to MH370, while others were identified as highly likely to have come from the aircraft. Ocean current studies showed that these discoveries were consistent with a crash somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean. Even with those findings, the greatest mystery remained unsolved. The main wreckage had not been found. The flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder had never been recovered. Without them, investigators could not reconstruct the aircraft's final moments with certainty. After years of searching, the official underwater operation concluded without locating the wreckage. Later, private search efforts returned to the region using newer technology, guided by updated analysis and refined search models. Experts continued to study satellite data, ocean drift patterns, and underwater terrain, believing that advances in technologies may eventually reveal the aircraft's resting place. But until that day comes, many questions remain exactly where they were on the morning of March 8, 2014. A routine flight, a sudden disappearance, hundreds of families left waiting, and a mystery that continues to challenge investigators more than a decade later. Perhaps the final answers still lie thousands of meters beneath the waves, untouched in the darkness of the Indian Ocean. Until the wreckage is found and the flight recorders are recovered, every explanation remains incomplete. The story of MH370 is not only about an aircraft that vanished, it is about the families who continue to wait, the investigators who refuse to stop searching for answers, and the enduring hope that one day the silence surrounding Flight MH370 will finally be broken. If you enjoy carefully researched documentary stories based on verified events, subscribe for more real mysteries, aviation investigations, and true stories from history.